climate change, global warming, climate smart agriculture, renewable energy, energy efficiency, electric mobility, sustainable transportation, and the list goes on and on and on. Those are some of the complex and broad terms that are usually said in the whole climate change discourse. These terms are complex and sometimes difficult for the common man to understand, and the whole concept of climate change is being lost in translation. Hello, I am Jan Bisho, also known as Jan of Kaduna, and in this channel we talk about environmental sustainability and climate action from an African point of view. In this video, I'll be talking about how I talk about climate change to inspire action in my local community. I am a Nigerian, brought up in Nigeria, and currently living in Nigeria. And throughout the course of my education, from primary, secondary, up to my university education, climate change wasn't really taught to me. I think I only heard about the concept of climate change in a particular topic in my science class, I think when I was in secondary school, junior secondary school, and that was it. We never talked. There was no proper climate education curriculum in our schools, and even up to now there is no climate education curriculum in schools. And so I didn't know much about climate change. I didn't know how it was affecting me. I didn't know anything. Just that, well, weather comes and goes. It can be bad sometimes, it can be better sometimes, but what really caused it, I didn't know. Fast forward to 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown, and everyone started looking for new activities to keep their mind at bay. And I stumbled upon the report that the world was better and saner with all of us locked in than when we were going about doing our normal businesses. And that's what drew me into learning more about environmental sustainability and climate change. Fast forward to now, a lot of Nigerian youths still do not understand the concept of climate change, and they do not understand why they need to bother about it or even how it affects them. I also remembered when I started learning more about climate change and more environmental issues, there was not enough materials for me that were very relatable to me. Either they were not either they were not like local content. I could not relate to them because they were set in the global north global north point of view, or even the ones that were like set in the African point of view, they were so complex that I couldn't really understand what they were trying to say. So it was kind of tough for me at the beginning. Thankfully, at that time when I decided to like venture into environmental activism, Plug in Nigeria too were doing this their academy where they were training young Nigerians to learn more about climate education and environmental sustainability. And that was when I started seeing localized content. And shout out to Plug in Nigeria, they were the ones that kind of opened my eyes to see how climate change affects me locally. And since then, I have taken it upon myself to educate people about climate change, climate action, how it affects them, how they can contribute to solving the crisis in simple, local, relatable terms. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the ways that I have been able to do that to ensure that people can relate to what is happening. They can also see how they can be able to contribute to solving whatever is happening, and how they can be able to come together to get the collective action that we need to get the lasting solution that we need. If you're watching this video up to now, thank you. If you're watching this video up to now, don't forget to like and subscribe just before we get on with the rest of the video. Number one, personalize the message. For you to be able to get the kind of reaction or action you want from people, you need to connect climate change with individual values. Talk about the impact of climate change on their everyday lives. For instance, in Nigeria, where agriculture is actually a big thing, when you're talking about climate change in Nigeria, try to relate it to the unpredictable, right? Try to relate it to, for instance, the irregular rainfall patterns that we have been experiencing for years. How the way rains were last year is not going to be the way rains are going to be this year, and how does it affect the average farmer? That is how you personalize this message to them. Don't come and talk to farmers about climate change and be talking about vague, bogus words like I'll be talking about vague, bogus words like floods and droughts. Some of them don't know what floods and droughts are. Break it down to them. Okay, when this plenty water comes, how does it affect your crops? Your crops, it washes away. But you know what causes that plenty water that happens almost every year now? That is how you begin to personalize this message to them and how it impacts their everyday lives. When you do it like that, you have hit the nail on the head. Number two, make it relatable. Put facts in context to real life comparisons to make it make sense. Like in Nigeria, heat waves are becoming more frequent and it's getting hotter with each year. Now, when people are complaining like it's too hot, that is now the perfect time for you to now relate it to climate change. And you tell them now, yes, it's too hot, but you know why it is too hot? It's because the atmosphere is getting hotter. And you know why the atmosphere is getting hotter? That is how you begin to navigate to not hit the nail on the head. Make it relatable. Tell them, don't come and be talking about climate change. You're talking about melting ice caps. Color work, they don't understand. We are not going to really, it's not relatable. Like, oh, I'm melting ice caps. Hey, yeah, sorry for them, dear. Oh. Or you come and you're telling them about wildfires. Okay. They're even going to become more doubtful because you're telling them wildfires is the atmosphere that just causes fire in big forest. Like, you are lying because it's not relatable. It's not something that they can relate to. Bring it back home. What are those climate change effects that are happening around them that you're complaining about that you know is really affecting them? Relate it. Relate your message to those effects, and then you can be able to start conversations that will drive climate action. Number three, bring actions home. It's not just enough for it just to be talking climate change, this, that, global warming, this, that. It's not all too much talk. When you bring actions, it also helps to bring the message home. For instance, you're talking about for instance, you're talking about how floods are disturbing them and this, you're just talking. But now, what's now going to happen? The message is not complete without the solution. So when you now also bring solutions back home to them and you're telling them how to plant flood resistant crops, so that when these floods come, it does not bring as much losses to them. We're talking to architects and builders how to build flood resistant homes so that when these floods come, it does not bring as much losses and damages to their properties. And now by doing this, you're now beginning to make it more relatable. You're like, oh, what this thing that they're talking about, this is a solution for it. Oh, this is how it's like so this is how it is intertwined. So how can I even do more to ensure that this solution lasts longer for me? You're bringing them in. You're like, okay, this is now the answer. Another way that I try to communicate climate change more effectively is by bringing people into the conversations, bringing the locals into the conversation. Don't come and be like the savior that has come to save them. Oh no, make it a dialogue, make it community, make it a community project, make it something that they talk about the things that they have seen and they're like, oh. And then you find a way to link it to climate change. Climate change affects every sphere of life and also every part of development. And it is very easy for you to connect climate change and different parts of people's lives and how it relates to their everyday lives. It's just for you to understand how it does relate to them and you can get the message home. I believe that for us to get the collective action and the quick response we need to be able to tackle the climate crisis, people need to first of all understand. Is when they understand, that is when they can call for change, that is when they can call out their political leaders, their business leaders. That's also when they can be able to make small and collective actions towards tackling the climate crisis. But only when they understand. And how can they understand? When they get the education that they need, that is climate education. I hope that you have enjoyed this video up to now. If you've done so, thank you very much. And don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe and join this amazing community and join this amazing growing community of nature lovers, climate advocates, environmental sustainability, environmental environmental enthusiasts, and all that. Remember that you can be the change that you want to see. Joanna Fikaruna, signing out.